1. The Salt Path Controversy, Raynor Winn responds to misleading claims. 2. The Salt Path, Unraveling the Truth Behind the Bestseller. 3. The Salt Path Backlash, True Story Behind the Star-Studded Film. 4. Unpacking the Salt Path Controversy, Truth or Tale. 1. The Salt Path Controversy, Raynor Winn responds to misleading claims. A best-selling memoir is now at the center of a heated debate. Did Raynor Winn, author of The Salt Path, mislead her readers about the true story behind her book? This question has ignited a firestorm of controversy, with passionate opinions on both sides. But here's where it gets even more intriguing: the very details that inspired millions are now being called into question. So, what's really going on? Let's break it down for those new to the story. The Salt Path, published in 2018, quickly became a sensation, selling over 2 million copies and even inspiring a film adaptation starring Gillian and Jason Isaacs. The memoir recounts how Raynor and her husband, Moth, lost their home after a disastrous investment in a friend's business. At the same time, Moth was diagnosed with corticobasal degeneration, CBD, a rare and debilitating illness. Facing homelessness and a grim medical prognosis, the couple set out to walk the entire 630-mile southwest coast path, surviving on minimal government support and wild camping along the way. The book is celebrated for its raw honesty about hardship, the healing power of nature, and the kindness of strangers. By the end, the couple finds hope and a new place to live, and, remarkably, Moth's health appears to improve far beyond medical expectations. But this is the part most people miss. A recent investigation by The Observer has cast doubt on some of the memoir's most pivotal claims. According to their report, the real reason for the couple's financial downfall wasn't a failed business investment, but rather an accusation that Raynor defrauded her employer of £64,000. To repay this alleged debt, the couple reportedly borrowed £100,000 at a steep 18% interest rate from a distant relative, using their home as collateral. With an existing £230,000 mortgage, their debts soon outstripped the value of their property, leading to repossession. The Observer also claims the couple owned a house in France, though locals say it was uninhabitable and the Winns only stayed in caravans on the land. Perhaps the most controversial point, medical experts interviewed by The Observer expressed skepticism about Moth's diagnosis of CBD, noting his long survival and apparent recovery, something almost unheard of with this condition. The report even suggests that Raynor and Moth Winn are not the couple's real names, adding another layer of mystery. In response, Raynor Winn has fiercely defended her account, calling The Observer's article highly misleading. She insists that The Salt Path is an honest retelling of their journey and that she and her husband are now seeking legal advice. She has also withdrawn from the upcoming Salt Lines tour, expressing regret to fans but stating she cannot participate while the situation is unresolved. The controversy has had ripple effects. The PSPA, a charity supporting people with CBD and previously partnered with the Winns, has ended its relationship with the couple, citing too many unanswered questions. Meanwhile, the film's producers maintain that they conducted all necessary checks before adapting the book and that the movie remains a faithful representation of the memoir as it was presented to them. The film has already grossed around $16 million worldwide, with further releases planned in Europe and the US. And this is where the debate gets truly divisive. Should memoirs be held to the same standards of factual accuracy as journalism, or is there room for creative license in telling one's story? Can a narrative still be meaningful if some details are disputed? Or does the power of the story depend on its absolute truth? We want to hear from you. Do you believe Raynor Winn's account, or do you side with the skeptics? Should authors be held accountable for every detail in their memoirs, or is emotional truth just as important as factual accuracy? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is a conversation that's far from over. 2. The Salt Path, Unraveling the Truth Behind the Bestseller. The truth behind The Salt Path, a story of redemption or fabrication. Imagine being a widow in rural Wales, living a quiet life, only to receive a call from a journalist in London. That's exactly what happened to Ros Hemmings, who wasn't surprised by the call. She'd been waiting for it for years. Her suspicions? A woman she knew as Sally Walker, now celebrated as Raynor Winn, had woven a tale that captivated millions. But behind the scenes, a different story was unfolding. The Salt Path, a best-selling memoir about a couple's 630-mile trek along England's coast, became a cultural phenomenon. Its author, Raynor Winn, and her husband Moth, were portrayed as symbols of resilience after losing their home and facing a terminal illness. But for Hemmings, who once employed Winn, the story felt deeply distorted. She knew the real name behind the pseudonym and the truth about the couple's financial troubles. But here's where it gets controversial: what happens when a story that inspires millions is built on half-truths? Hemmings recalls a different narrative, one involving embezzlement, a vanished thief, and a home lost not to a friend's betrayal, but to a web of debt. The book's portrayal of their journey as a noble escape from hardship clashes with accounts of their financial recklessness. Let's unpack this. Winn's memoir describes losing their 17th-century Welsh farmhouse after a friend's failed business deal. But Hemmings paints a different picture. Winn allegedly stole £64,000 from her husband's business, leading to a police investigation. The couple then borrowed £100,000 from a relative, only to default and face repossession. Yet, in the book, this messy reality is replaced with a tale of generosity turned against them. And this is the part most people miss: the Salt Path's success hinges on its emotional core, but the facts don't always align. For instance, the couple's alleged homelessness after losing their home is contradicted by evidence they own property in France. Their financial struggles, too, seem less dire than depicted. Then there's the matter of Moth's illness. Winn's books describe him battling corticobasal degeneration, CBD, a rare neurological condition. But neurologists question the timeline and severity of his symptoms. One specialist even says, "I've never seen someone live 18 years with CBD." The memoir's narrative of recovery through walking feels suspiciously convenient. This isn't just about a book. It's about the power of storytelling and the line between truth and embellishment. Fans might argue that the message matters more than the details, but for those who feel deceived, the stakes are high. So, what's the takeaway? Should we forgive the gaps in a story that uplifts us? Or does the truth matter, even when it complicates a beautiful narrative? Share your thoughts. Do you think Winn's story is a masterpiece of resilience, or a cautionary tale about the cost of fame? 3. The Salt Path Backlash, true story behind the star-studded film. Imagine waking up to find that your life's work, a story that has inspired millions, is suddenly under a cloud of doubt and controversy. This is precisely what happened to Raynor Winn, the author of the best-selling non-fiction book The Salt Path. The book, which has sold over 2 million copies since its release in March 2018, tells the heart-wrenching and inspiring tale of Winn and her husband, Moth, as they embark on a journey across England after losing their home to a bad investment. The story has been hailed as a testament to perseverance and the kindness of strangers, but here's where it gets controversial. An exposé published over the weekend by The Observer has thrown a wrench into the narrative, challenging the authenticity of Winn's account. The book, which Winn claims is based entirely on true events, details the couple's penniless trek camping along the British coast. This journey was so inspiring that it was adapted into a star-studded film starring Gillian and Jason Isaacs, released in UK theatres earlier this year. The film depicts Moth's diagnosis of a debilitating and terminal neurological illness, corticobasal degeneration, CBD, which Winn claims was improved by their expedition. Isaacs, in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, described the film as a reminder of the things that are important in life, a sentiment that resonated with many viewers. But The Observer's investigation has cast a shadow over these claims. The exposé reveals that Winn, whose real name is allegedly Sally Walker, and her husband, Tim, were not just victims of a bad investment. An ex-co-worker of Winn's told The Observer that Winn was actually guilty of defrauding her former employer of £64,000, $87,000, and was loaned £100,000, $136,000, from a relative to avoid a criminal charge. The couple also had a £230,000 mortgage on their farmhouse in Wales, and the loss of their home was due to the same relative suing them to get the money back. The Observer also spoke to medical experts who questioned the validity of Moth's CBD diagnosis, given his survival 12 years after first experiencing symptoms. This has sparked outrage on social media, with many feeling that the Winn's claims have given false hope to those affected by similar conditions. One reader on X wrote, "I nursed my mum through the horrors of corticobasal disease. I knew from the outset the story in #The Salt Path couldn't be true. But it will have given people false hope, all in pursuit of money." The scandal has prompted widespread outrage, with many waiting for comments from Gillian, Jason Isaacs, and those involved in the film's production. THR has reached out to representatives for the actors as well as Penguin and Number 9 Films. A BBC film spokesperson declined to comment. In response to the allegations, Winn released a statement on Sunday calling the Observer's article highly misleading. She stated, "The salt path lays bare the physical and spiritual journey Moth and I shared, an experience that transformed us completely and altered the course of our lives. This is the true story of our journey. But this is the part most people miss." The controversy raises important questions about the boundaries of memoir and the responsibility of authors to present truthful accounts. It also invites us to consider the impact of such stories on those who find hope and inspiration in them. What do you think? Should authors be held accountable for the accuracy of their memoirs, especially when they inspire and influence so many? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 4. Unpacking the Salt Path Controversy, Truth or Tale. The author of the acclaimed memoir, The Salt Path *, is facing serious allegations of dishonesty. This summer, audiences have been captivated by the film adaptation of Raynor Winn's journey alongside her husband, Moth, as they tackle the challenging 630-mile southwest coast path. Their adventure begins after they lose their home and Moth receives a terminal illness diagnosis. Until recently, The Salt Path * has been celebrated for its uplifting narrative, earning enthusiastic reviews from critics and readers alike. However, a recent investigation published by The Observer * has raised troubling questions about the authenticity of Winn's account. The report claims that Winn misappropriated tens of thousands of pounds from a previous employer and suggests that she fabricated details regarding her homelessness and the circumstances surrounding the repossession of their home. Additionally, it casts doubt on the validity of Moth's medical diagnosis. In response to these allegations, Winn described the Observer * report as highly misleading when contacted by The Guardian star. She stated, "We are taking legal advice and won't be making any further comment at this time. The Salt Path lays bare the physical and spiritual journey Moth and I shared, an experience that transformed us completely and altered the course of our lives. This is the true story of our journey." Interestingly, the report reveals that Raynor Winn, whose real name is Sally Walker, allegedly took approximately £64,000 from an estate agency where she worked as a bookkeeper. This led to her arrest, according to the business owner's wife. The Salt Path * narrates the couple's loss of their home after they invested a significant amount in a business run by a childhood friend of Moth, whose real name is Tim Walker. This venture ultimately failed, and the friend accused the couple of being liable for the business debts, resulting in a court ruling that ordered the repossession of their house. However, the investigation suggests that the Walkers' home was repossessed due to their failure to repay a loan taken to cover the money Walker had taken from the estate agency. They borrowed £100,000 from a distant relative of Tim's, with the loan secured against their property. It is alleged that this relative assisted Walker in obtaining legal representation, who then approached her former employer with a proposal to repay the money and cover legal expenses. The Observer * claims that the employer agreed to a non-disclosure agreement and no criminal charges were filed against Walker. The Walkers' house was ultimately repossessed in June 2013 after the relative's business failed. While Winn portrays the couple as having been rendered homeless with nowhere to turn, documents reviewed by the Observer * indicate that they purchased a house in France in 2007, which they still own. The investigation also raises doubts about Moth's diagnosis of corticobasal degeneration, CBD, which he has reportedly lived with for 18 years. Michelle Hu, a professor of clinical neurosciences at Oxford University mentioned in the report, expressed skepticism, stating, "I've never looked after anyone that's lived that long." Following the success of The Salt Path *, Winn has published 2 additional books, The Wild Silence * and Landlines *, both of which begin with Moth experiencing symptoms of CBD, followed by their challenging walks that seemingly improve his condition. Since its release in 2018, The Salt Path * has sold over 2 million copies globally. Recently, a film adaptation featuring Gillian and Jason Isaacs premiered in the UK. The production companies behind the film, Number 9 Films and Shadowplay Features, stated, "The film is a faithful adaptation of the book that we optioned." The allegations made in the Observer * relate to the book and are a matter for the author Raynor Winn. There were no known claims against the book at the time of optioning it or producing and distributing the film, and we undertook all necessary due diligence before acquiring the book. Winn's 4th book, on Winter Hill *, is set to be released in October. However, Michael Joseph, the Penguin imprint responsible for publishing Winn's memoirs, has not commented on whether this publication will proceed. In a significant development, PSPA, a charity that supports individuals with CBD and had collaborated with the Winns, has ended its relationship with the family, as reported by the BBC. Additionally, Winn has withdrawn from the upcoming Salt Lines tour, where she was scheduled to perform alongside the Gigspanner Big Band at various venues across the UK.